Hey everyone, Matt Williamson here. OTAs are in the books. It was another successful day on the South Side for the Steelers. We've got 9 of those in the books now, and we go back next week for mandatory minicamp, so everyone should be there for that. Give you updates, of course, as we do that. But not a ton to report from practices today. I've been kind of teasing these Pro Football Focus position ranks. And the one I've been wanting to see the most is edge, and that came out today. So I want to dig right in. And NFL.com also had a complimentary piece about defensive linemen that I think kind of, they work in unison together. So I want to count down this entire list. They ranked the top 32, Pro Football Focus did. And they put them into tiers. There are 5 tiers. The bottom tier, 5th, is edge rusher, edge player, 27 to 32. So these are pretty still, I don't want to say elite, but they're high-end players. And this position, as I've told you forever, is just loaded with talent in the league right now, as is defensive tackle. But D-line is just loaded with talent right now, and you'll see that. So the 5th tier of edge rushers goes like this. 27 is Sam Hubbard of the Bengals. 28 is Josh Sweat of the Eagles. 29 is Greg Rousseau of the Bills. 30 is another Eagle, Brandon Graham. 31 is Cameron Jordan of the Saints. And 32 is Alex Highsmith of your Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, my thoughts on that tier. Jordan and Graham are well-established Ring of Honor for the Eagles and Saints type players. Not the Cam Hayward level, but, legends on their own team that aren't going to go to the Hall of Fame. Great careers, still playing well, probably better off with a little bit, reined in snap count a little bit at their age. So, that sort of thing. The other 3, well, the other 2, Sweat and Rousseau and Hubbard, are younger, ascending, sort of more in the Highsmith mold, Rousseau in general. But in my opinion, I would take Highsmith over all 3 of those guys. I think Highsmith proved that he is better than the 32nd edge guy. And here's what they said about Highsmith. Let me pull this up here. Finally, Highsmith was productive in T.J. Watt's absence, playing 941 defensive snaps with 14.5 sacks and 55 pressures. Not a whole lot of information there, but so here's something that I found to complement that, and we'll get back to Pro Football Focus's list. But NFL.com, and this is not an opinion thing where Pro Football Focus is, but also strongly based off their, overall grades. But they had a disruptive list on NFL.com. And all it is a mathematical formula of pressures, hurries, sacks, all those things, all the things that they value and add it up. It's a mathematical equation. Who are the most disruptive defensive linemen, edge and D tackles in the entire league last year? So these are the elite of the elite. Again, this is 2 different websites. So that NFL.com list had a just missed area of Max Crosby, who I couldn't believe was not in the top 10, Zadarius Smith, Josh Sweat, who we just mentioned, Sam Hubbard, who we just mentioned, Dexter Lawrence, Khalil Mack, Josh Allen, not the quarterback, the edge rusher for the Jags. Number 10 is Quinnen Williams. Number 9 was Brian Burns. Number 8 is Matt Judon. Number 7 is our old buddy Javon Hargrave. So these are really the best defensive linemen in the league. Number 6 is Alex Highsmith. So according to these metrics, again, not opinion of NFL.com, Alex Highsmith was the 6th most disruptive defensive lineman of any type in the entire league last year. And here's what they say about him. Highsmith arrives on this list after Pittsburgh's much more widely known edge rusher, T.J. Watt, missed 7 games. That is not entirely coincidental, but more importantly, it adds to what was already a highly impressive season for an edge rusher who has blossomed in the NFL. Since joining the Steelers via a 3rd-round pick in 2020, Highsmith has developed into a surprisingly powerful force off the edge who benefited from playing opposite Watt. But if instead of receding into the background when Watt was sidelined due to injury last season, Highsmith put together the best year of his career, more than doubling his previous single season high for sacks and posting a QB pressure rate that was better than many of the NFL household names. That is more than worthy of a spot on this list. So that's a big thing they do here is QB pressure rate. So just under 14% of the dropbacks Highsmith faced, he created a quarterback pressure. So to give you some, Judon was around 12. Burns was at 13. I mean, these are some of the best guys out there. So those are the other edges. So he belongs. And frankly, putting him 32 is way too low for my opinion. So we'll get back to the Pro Football Focus list in a minute. But just to round out, to tell you the company that Highsmith was in at 6, Chris Jones comes in at 5. Hassan Reddick comes in at 4. Myles Garrett at 3. Nick Bosa at 2, and Micah Parsons at 1. So for example, Micah Parsons was off the chart. He pressured quarterbacks at 16.4% of dropbacks. That's insane. But, Bosa was at 16%. I'm looking at the other top edge guys. Garrett was at 16.3. Reddick was at 15.4. But like I said, Highsmith was at 14%. I mean, that's right there with those guys, slightly behind. I mean, with the elite of the elite. All right, quick break and we'll get back to this list because T.J. Watt's coming up. All right, we're going to scan through things because Watt is not in Tier 4. He's not in Tier 3. Big shocker. So the Tier 4 dudes, and I'm not going to break down all these non-Steelers, but just to give you an idea of what we're talking about here. DeMarcus Lawrence is at 19. Shaq Barrett is at 20. John Franklin Myers, a name you guys might not know, but is a very good football player, 21. Aiden Hutchinson, 22. The Patriots' Josh Uche, 23. Danico Autry from the Titans at 24. Broncos' Randy Gregory at 25, and Chase Young, who would be a really hard one to judge, is at 26. So that's that neighborhood. Frankly, I think Highsmith belongs with just about every one of those guys, not in the Tier 5. Now we're getting a little more household names here. Here's some Tier 3 players. I don't think Highsmith belongs in this group. I think he's a Tier 4 dude, which is, 20th overall in edge rushers? That's pretty darn good. Khalil Mack's at 13, Jalen Phillips, who I love from the Dolphins, at 14, Jags, Josh Allen, 15, Montez Sweat, 16, Zadarius Smith, who's now a Brown, 17. He's going to play opposite Garrett and also bump inside. Matthew Judon of the Patriots, 18. Good group. It just shows the talent at this position. Now, these Tier 2 dudes are very good football players. Hassan Reddick at 7. Rashawn Gary, who is hurt a lot, but is as talented as anybody on here, at 8. The Bengals, Trey Hendrickson at 9. The fantastic Von Miller at 10. Daniil Hunter at 11. Brian Burns at 12. That's the Tier 2 dudes. As you probably imagined, our buddy T.J. Watt is in Tier 1. Now, these Tier 1 guys, I'm sure you can figure out, have a pretty good idea of the company that T.J. is going to keep on this list. Is truly elite. I mean, I honestly think that there are 4 or 5 here that are just so good that because Watt, who, as you know, 2 years ago was possibly won, I mean, he was Defensive Player of the Year, because he took a small step back, whether it's his fault or not, I would ding him as well. So pull back the curtain. Watt is ended up 4. And I'm sure you guys are like, I watch Watt every snap. There can't be 3 better than him. I don't disagree. But I would have Watt 4 as well because the top 4 are just so good. So their top edge players go number 1, Myles Garrett. Number 2, Micah Parsons. 3, Nick Bosa. TJ comes in at 4. Max Crosby would definitely be my 5. And Joey Bosa's at 6. I would have Joey in Tier 2. So I would have 5 players in Tier 1, and I would rank them Parsons, Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett, Watt, Crosby. Now, don't fight me that I have Garrett over Watt because Steelers, Browns, all that stuff, Mason Rudolph helmet, yada, yada. These guys are all elite. I mean, we're very much splitting hairs. But Watt's season has to be held against him a little. You know, when you're talking about the very best players in the league, the degree of difficulty is extremely, extremely high. The only quote they have here about Watt was hurt last season, but when healthy, he is still a walking masterclass of how to play the edge position. No argument here. Total superstar. Last thing I have on this subject, though, is I found it interesting that on this edge list, only 32 dudes on there. 8 teams had multiple players, and the Eagles had 3. Steelers, of course, are one of those 8 teams that had 2 players on a list of the top 32 edge players in the league. Steelers, Chargers, Bills, Bengals, Commanders, Browns, Cowboys, with the Eagles having 3, which is remarkable. They had 70 sacks last year. But those are kind of like the best teams in the league. I mean, the Commanders are not phenomenal, but none of those are bad teams. You know, the company you're keeping with the Steelers is the upper middle class of the league. You know, Bills and Eagles and Bengals stand out as elite teams. I think Dallas isn't far behind. Commanders aren't great, but they're not horrible. Browns, Chargers, a lot of talent there. So these are the company you want to keep. I mean, teams like the Chiefs aren't on here. So I don't know. I found that interesting. It's about all I got for today. Fun little conversation, though. And Steelers are pretty nice shape at the edge position. And now they have a little bit of depth there. And to sum it up, give Alex Highsmith money. You know, I mean, he's worth it. So over and out. See you.